Ladies and gents, we're back on. Yesterday, I gave you guys, I'd say, a lengthy introduction as to what I'm doing here, what the goal is, and just sort of to recap. My name is Bell, and I'm the founder of Copy. Copy gives us the opportunity to take a step closer or a step further into ownership of viral content. So again, if you like to TikTok scroll or even Instagram scroll, what we find often when content goes viral, what you see is that you see, if you click on the sound that was used for that viral moment, you'll see an everlasting list of people who've joined in to ride the wave of the virality of that original viral moment. So where copy comes in, as I mentioned before, is that this allows you to mint your version of that viral moment on the blockchain. And you also, along with that, what happens with copy is that AI steps in and it'll judge every submission that follows the original version, and it'll judge to see who replicated the original viral moment best. And once it's been judged and you've been selected as the winner for that moment, you then get to mint or you get joint ownership on the blockchain along with the original creator. So let's jump back in and second time explaining that on camera, don't hold it against me. That's the watch. But yeah, basically what happens is the original creator the original creator will mint that moment on copy. And what will happen is if you want to replicate that original moment, you'll go into the copy platform and you'll find a piece of content that has gone viral on TikTok. Ideally, what will happen is that the viral content that the moment that went viral on TikTok, the original creator will upload that to copy. Someone else who wants to mint their version as well as become a joint owner of the minted moment, the minted viral original piece of content. You become a joint owner again by submitting your version to copy. And again, what will happen is that AI will judge every submission and it'll screen for who replicated the original moment best. Once you're chosen, once you're selected as the winner, you become joint owner of the original viral moment on the blockchain. So practicing my spiel with that. So if anybody in the future asks me what copy is, I can sort of just rip that out. Like, yeah, this is what copy is. This is what it does. This is how I came up with the idea. But my brain is always going. It's always on the hunt for something that's kind of out there. I like to conceptualize things. I like to get as close as I can to bringing things to life. And this will be the first attempt to do anything on the blockchain. In fact, as I mentioned before, I will be I will be teaching myself to become a blockchain developer while actually building out my very first project simultaneously. So I'm going to screen record. Okay. This was where we left off yesterday. So let's go back into Chat GPT. Yeah.
Who took this off the thing?
Where is that from?
The drawer thing over there in front of our Xbox.
Okay, put it back on.
I don't know where the drawer thing. I don't know how to put it back on.
Figure it out. The screw should be in the drawer. So we've got ChatGPT back open, and we're going to pick up where we left off. So I want ChatGPT to explain some of this jargon with me. See, this for me is what it gives me the feel that I'm creating a proper environment to expand my understanding of what it means to actually be a developer, and to kind of spoon feed myself some of the jargon, some of the protocols. And as I'm building this out with ChatGPT, it's giving me a lot of acronyms that obviously I'm going to be seeing for the first time. So I'm going to take this moment just to have ChatGPT, break some of that down for me. So the very last response that we got from ChatGPT yesterday was follow, as follows. But before we do that, I want to back up just to bring us up to speed to understand what the last thing that happened was before I wrapped up the video yesterday. I'm just going to have chat explain it without me. So explain what we just did. Here's the play-by-play of what just happened. Verify that your function is deployed and reachable. You pasted your submit copy cloud function URL into the browser. The browser immediately hit that endpoint with a GET request, because that's what browsers do when you just type in a URL. The function returned. That error message came from your function's own validation code, meaning the function ran successfully and responded. It just didn't get the expected inputs. Conclusion: the deployment worked and your URL is correct. Verify that your function is deployed and reachable. So again, we're working on the back end, and submit copy. This was a function that I put together that will allow people to vote, right? And so I just want to, let's finish reading this response. understood why the error happened. Your function is written to expect a post, right? So this, again, this function allows you to post to copy. Your function is written to expect a post request containing JSON. By opening the URL in a browser, you sent a GET with no request body. So the function said you didn't give me the data I need. Next step, actually sending the right data. I showed you how to send a proper post from your terminal using curl. This simulates how your front end will call the function with JSON data. Once you run that curl command, your function should receive the wallet and video URL. Okay, so this is where, so on the front end with copy, what it's going to look like is it's going to essentially just be a submission form where you will submit your your TikTok handle so we know who to reference, or your information is being sent to the AI agent when it's time to judge. So we'll get your TikTok handle, we will get the link to your video, receives it. Oh, and your you'll set up a wallet. So you'll need a crypto wallet set up. So it'll receive the wallet and video URL, run its intended logic, output either a success message or a specific error about the data. Why nothing showed in Logs Explorer earlier? You were checking logs for the right function name and region, but you hadn't actually triggered it with valid data yet. You were using the browser GET, which still triggered the function. But depending on filters, time, range, it may not have shown up. Your Logs Explorer view was scoped to a very short time window, last 1 to 5 minutes, so it missed earlier requests. Where we're going next, send a real post with JSON either from curl in your terminal, your test.html page, making sure it actually sends a post with JSON payload. Then check Logs Explorer with time range, 15 minutes or more, resource Cloud Run version or Cloud Run revision, because Gen 2 functions log here. Function service name submit copy. That should show the function calls and any console.log output you put in the code. If you want, I can walk you through editing your test page right now so that hitting submit actually sends that JSON payload, which will let you see a success in both the browser and Google Logs. That'll make the function fully testable from your front end. So there was just a lot of, it's really starting to hit me with a lot of information that, again, at this time, I'm unfamiliar with, and that's all right. I say doing it this way still puts you ahead of a lot of people who are wanting to get into this space, because I'm not just learning about code. I'm learning about setting up a back end, a front end, and through Firebase, Firestore, and Google Logs. And so I've got quite a setup now. I believe most of what I'm doing, which let me ask ChatGPT, because I'm pretty sure what I'm doing usually takes multiple people. How many people are usually involved with a project like this. For something like Copy, a mobile first AI enhanced blockchain integrated content platform, the number of people involved really depends on stage and budget. But here's a breakdown from lean solo dev builds to full scale startup teams. Ultra lean, 1 to 3 people. Common on early proof of concept, MVP stage. Full stack developer or solo dev like you right now. Handles backend Firebase, GCP functions, front end, web mobile, integrations, Zora, AI, APIs. Product designer, UX, optional early on, makes sure the interface feels intuitive. Founder, PM, often solo, the dev, or often also the dev. Handles vision, testing, and user feedback. This is where you are now, doing almost everything yourself. Small startup team, 4 to 8 people. Common once you're preparing for public beta or want faster development. So I'm really focused on where I am right now, and that's I'm in the early proof of concept stage. So let me see. Needed when scaling. Okay, funded scale. Funded scale up. That's 8 to 20 people. Needed when scaling user base and adding multiple complex features. Dedicated DevOps and QA teams, data analysts for user behavior insights, community managers for creator relationships, security engineers for blockchain and API security, possibly a content partnership, possibly a content partnerships lead to onboard big name creators. Reality check. A project like Copy can get to a working public MVP with 1 to 2 skilled people in a few months. But for stability, scalability, and growth, you're looking at a core team of 5 to 7 by the time you have active users. All right. So I kind of want to look at what the reality of bringing this together actually means. So I'm learning, which is great. But if I'm actually going to take what I'm building seriously, I'd like to know what the projections look like. And so, again, we're in the proof of concept stage. Full stack developer. So, outline for me what a full stack developer looks like based on everything I've been doing so far. This is just to kind of give my brain a moment to stop smoking for a bit, because again, as I mentioned in my first video, whenever I'm doing something I'm not familiar with, I don't like to just rush through it just because I can rush through it. Just because I can just follow the instructions all the way through. I like to make sure that every step that I'm taking, I can take it in and fully understand the why behind what I'm doing every step of the way. ChatGPT is still responding. So in the meantime, I really kind of had to force myself to get on camera today. I wasn't really, I wasn't as motivated today. And I think what happens at this junction is that you have to make the decision that you're not going to beat yourself up for having a human response to learning something that you're unfamiliar with. You're just going to hit those days where you're just not going to be up to it. So today is one of those days for me. I'm still working out the because when you're teaching yourself something and you're also trying to produce content at the same time, it's sort of it requires you to divide your attention a bit. And so I am kind of taking a hit there. So if it seems like my learning process seems a bit slower than you'd like, or the process to which I'm moving from one point to the next seems to lag, it's a lot of it is going to be because I'm teaching myself to balance content creation with actually learning the skill, because again, it's going to be just as important to document this as it is to actually build the actual thing. And so I'd rather from early on get used to actually creating content as I'm learning, as I'm building, and get good at explaining what's going on camera. So far, so good. I think we're doing fine. Like I said, I've been working on this for about a week or so now. I've got about a week of work into this, and we're at a good place. There's no need to get, overly anxious. It's very easy to see where you want to go and have your desire to get there sort of cause you to not be present in the moment, right? You're so in your head about where you think you want to go, where, what sort of progress have you made up to this point, and it really pulls you out of being focused in the moment, right? And so if I'm not focused in the moment, it doesn't really matter where this is going to go, because without the focus in place, I'm not going to retain any of what's going to be important for me to understand as I'm building this out. Because again, I'm good at using ChatGPT, but I want to get to a point where I can be independent of it, or at least have my understanding to the point where I'm beyond the basics, right? So I'd like to at some point in the future be using ChatGPT for some pretty advanced, you know, workloads. And right now I'm having ChatGPT spin me up kind of a self-imposed crash course as I'm building something real. And so I'm going to get traction with this. It's just going to require that I'm patient. And if you're on a similar journey as myself, remember to give yourself grace. Remember to be patient. And remember that it's okay to be new at something, right? Everybody's got their own pace. Everybody has their own method for learning. This is the method that I've chosen. And it's just going to be, honestly, I'd say give myself a few weeks. Give myself a few weeks, and I will start to move a lot faster with this. I would say give me about a few weeks to a month, and we'll start to see that I'm picking up the pace quite a bit. So we got the response. I asked ChatGPT to outline what a full stack developer looks like based on everything I've been doing so far. Here's what a full stack developer means in the context of everything you've been doing with copy, mapped to the exact task you knocked out. What you already did, that's full stack. Environment and tooling. Homebrew, Node, NPM, Firebase, CLI, GH, auth. I don't know if that's authorization or GH authorize, GH authentic, but VS Code Copilot, backend APIs, wrote Firebase Cloud Functions. I wrote Firebase Cloud Functions. I do remember doing that. Like I said, as far as the environment tooling went with coding and all that, I was just like, I was slinging code. And I'm gonna continue to get plenty of practice with that. A lot of that I'm gonna become familiar with over time, because when it comes to that terminal, that if it's not right, the terminal won't let you kick that through. It's gonna make you keep coming back until you've done it correctly, until it can understand what you're doing. It's very, obviously ones and zeros. You're not gonna be able to just input whatever. And so next up, AI plumbing. AI plumbing. Enabled Vertex AI, Gemini MCP base, or Gemini MCP, and planned the scorer hook. So this is where I actually had to. So I was doing multiple things at once. I was like coding, setting up Firebase, doing a few things here with Google, but in this particular case, I'm actually setting up some of the AI functions where I mentioned earlier how in you'll submit a piece of content and you're submitting it to be judged by AI. And so I set up a scoring system, kind of a basic, AI scoring system that'll be used to judge how well you replicated an original viral piece of content. So moving along, deploy and infrastructure, I'm guessing that is. Initialized Firebase project functions plus hosting, deployed endpoints and static site. Handled pre-deploy lint issues, pinned node runtime, installed function depths. This was all coding. Observability, checked GCP logs. Then that's what we did yesterday. GCP logs, explore verified function invocation, debugged 400s from bad inputs, iterated until missing wallet or video URL, expected validation. Front end glue. Created public/test.html to call your functions from the browser and quickly validate the back end. Security basics. Chose HTTPS, callable on request, set cores, kept keys out of code, used Firebase auth paths, ready for app check. Source control readiness, attempted repo setup, prepared to push local code to GitHub. This was when I mentioned that I started with, an older Mac, a computer that was from like 2012, and I'm just like, long term, this is not going to serve me. So I switched over to this newer computer. It's a an M4 from this year. So GitHub apparently, and really, I'm just learning all sorts of tools as I go. I didn't go, these are the tools I want to use. I literally told ChatGPT what it was I wanted to do, and ChatGPT has every step of the way shown me the process that I was going to have to take in order to build what it was I told it that I wanted to build. And so part of transitioning my work from the old computer to this one was that I was going to have to use GitHub. But I think I found a workaround and I ended up not using GitHub. So, what a full stack dev typically owns for a project like Copy: front end, build simple UIs, SPA or server rendered, that call APIs, manage state, handle errors, component design, accessibility, responsive layout, perf basics, backend, design REST, HTTP, endpoints, validate inputs, shape responses, data modeling, Firestore, SQL, transactions, pagination, all these terms for which I'm going to have to get familiar with. So, again, to me, this was like a good time to stop what I was doing and really, as I mentioned before, sort of try to soak in what are you asking me to do, right? Like, what is ChatGPT having me do? How do I define what just happened versus, checking a box, right? So I'm being hit with a lot of terms and a lot of protocols that I'm not familiar with. And again, not a big deal as we go. We'll continually get the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of these processes. So I'm just gonna take this time to further allow ChatGPT to help me understand what I've been doing. Sort of fill me in, right? A lot of this stuff, like I feel alienated, calling this stuff up because it's like it's interesting to see or to have the understanding that this is everything that I've done, but like I can't yet sit down and have a conversation with you and said and say, we did X, Y, Z. This was done as a result of this, or this is what we did to accomplish that. And again, that's what I want to be able to do. So where did I leave off? Component design, accessibility, responsiveness, layout, perf basics, backend, design REST, HTTP endpoints, validate inputs, shape responses, data modeling, Firestore, transactions, pagination, background jobs, queues, AI scoring or webhooks, AI integrations, wrap model calls, retry, cost latency, guardrails, feature flags for turning AI on and off without redeploys, DevOps, environments, secrets management, CI, CD, monitoring logs, Explorer, error alerts, rollbacks, versioning, security, auth Z, auth in, Firebase, auth, app check, rate limiting, cores, input sanitization, least privilege, IAM and per service API keys, IAM and per service API keys. See, these are, and it's funny because a lot of these acronyms remind me of when I took certain computer classes. I took a few classes in college, and I think what really threw me off and what really sort of turned me off was that you had all of these acronyms similar to what I'm reading off now, and the type of learner that I am is that I like hands on. And so you can sort of see in the way that I'm going about this is, I didn't start with the terms, the acronyms, the definitions. I didn't start with that stuff, sort of the granular components, because they really I'm just gonna say it plain, they bore me. Like they really do bore me. But not because they're not interesting, but because I never got the sense that they meant anything to me in that moment. I like working with things that are immediately relevant to something that I'm doing. I like for what I'm doing to have I like to have a different sense of purpose. So someone else looking at these terms and definitions, they'll have a different outlook on that. Like this will be very much so tied to what their future plans might be. But what I like about what I've done here is that I actually have a real project that allows me to see the relevance behind a lot of these terms. Now, I didn't even realize that a lot of this was what was going on. I was kind of just, on the go. I was just on the go, just doing it, just getting it done. But I have the leisure right now to stop and get into the reasoning behind what's been going on with this build. So, gaps to close next to level up fast. Data layer. Add Firestore reads, writes for submissions, votes, queue, authenticate, gate write endpoints behind Firebase and or app check. AI scorer. Deploy a separate score with Gemini function queue based processing. So it's like I went about this trying to nerd out without nerding out, sort of thing. And so now I'm facing sort of the inner components, like the real music of it. Kind of like if you were in an orchestra and you're playing an instrument, right? But you learned to play the instrument by sound versus playing the instrument by the notes. And so here I'm giving myself the opportunity to become familiar with the notes versus just playing the instrument based on sound. And the notes in this case are a lot more, and that's just for right now, but intimidating when it comes to like learning the instrument, right? Learning sort of the mechanics behind the output. So here's what I want. Okay, so before we go any further, I want ChatGPT because I don't want to walk away from what I'm doing right now as far as getting a grip on the granular components. I don't want to walk away from that until I have the sense that I can communicate what my role in this build has been. I don't want to just. So, yes, up until this point, I have used ChatGPT, but I want the sense of understanding what a dev's role is in terms of everything that I've done. Although I used ChatGPT. So I think that's what, right now we're 43 minutes in. And so I'll just use the rest of the time. This video will probably end up being an hour. So I'll use the rest of the time sort of helping myself to become familiar with a lot of these granular aspects of what copy is from beginning up until where we are currently. So let's go back through and start from the top. So here's what full stack developer means in the context of everything you've been doing with copy, mapped to the exact task you knocked out. What you already did, that's full stack, environment and tooling. So here's what I'm going to do. Environment and tooling. Okay, here's what I'm at. Here's what I'm going to prompt. Start from the top of all the tasks that I've knocked out. And explain in layman's terms what was happening at each step. That's what it is. Dev jargon. So I'm giving myself a chance to take the dev jargon and translate it into plain English so that I can relate to what's going on. So, because basically what I've done is I've thrown myself into a sort of a sink or swim situation, but in a controlled environment. I don't have someone like over my shoulder trying to make sure I understand what I'm doing. I'm sort of like creating that check and balance for myself. Okay. Let's break everything you've done so far into plain English, no dev jargon, unless it's needed. So you can really see the sequence and what each thing meant for copy. Setting up the computer to speak developer, what you did, installed things like Homebrew, Node NPM, and the Firebase CLI, why it mattered. Think of this like buying the right socket set before working on a car. Without these, you can't even open the hood. Homebrew equals the toolbox installer for Mac. Homebrew, the toolbox installer for Mac. Node NPM lets your computer understand and run JavaScript code outside a browser. Firebase CLI, the remote control to talk to Google's cloud. Okay, this is all good stuff. Very, very good stuff. I like what I'm reading so far. I'll probably go over this a few times after I wrap up this video, just so that the next time that I come on camera, I I sound more like a dev. So logging into Firebase and pointing to your project. What you did, use the CLI to log in to Google Firebase and link your laptop to your copy project in the cloud. Use the CLI to log into Google Firebase and link your laptop to your copy project in the cloud. Why it mattered. This is like connecting your house blueprint to the actual lot where you'll build. This is like connecting your house blueprint to the actual lot where you'll build. That's cool. It's pretty cool. Now, when you deploy, Firebase knows which place to send your code. So, this is what? Okay. Now, when you deploy, Firebase knows which place to send your code. That's neat. Like, that's really neat. Creating backend workers, cloud functions. What you did made 3 different Firebase cloud functions: submit copy, accepts a wallet ID plus video URL from the user and logs it. Vote for copy it records votes for submissions. Get challenge queue lists challenges in line for scoring. So I think at this what I did with this was I created a situation where they'll end up being a wait list, right? Essentially to conserve resources so that because it really gets into figuring out workaround when it comes to working with a lot of the AI components. Like we're talking about a lot of the tools that are going to cost you per submission is it's going to cost you based on the activity, right? So what I did to counteract that, I set up a situation where there's actually going to be a wait list. And in order to join that wait list, there'll be an opportunity for a user to invest, right? And so it'll filter through basically, and then another filter that I placed was that instead of having AI judge every single submission, what I did to counteract cost of using AI, I in the future am setting up a situation where AI will filter out the closest replicas. So it'll say we do like a top 10, top 20 replicas that will actually make it to the AI judge phase, right? So you'll be selected based on other users to be judged by AI. And then what AI will do is it'll filter out the closest replicas. So it's like you've got different levels of filter so that by the end, by the time that we've actually utilized the functions of AI when it comes to basically utilizing the resources to have AI perform their functions, we have filtered it through different parts. We have a process so that we're not throwing every submission at AI all at one time and saying, hey, judge all of these submissions. And then at that point, you've utilized so much. And at that point, you're spending a lot more money than you have to when you can just, again, you have these filters in place to help you get to what really matters most. Because again, at its core, copy is designed so that we find someone or a group of people who can be linked to the original piece of content based on how well they replicate that original viral moment. So that was a mouthful, but hope it made sense. I think it did. I'll replay this. What I did last night was I did a 2 hour video yesterday, and I went and I watched the whole thing because I wanted to make sure that, as I watch myself, I can make adjustments. I can see what I might have been doing wrong, how I can improve for the next video, and what quirks and ways that I speak stand out so that the next time I record, I can be mindful of those things and make adjustments. So I'll do the same thing with this video. It's like Tom Brady watching film. You get to watch your mistakes, you get to watch your quirks, get to see where you get hung up, and you make adjustments for the next video so that it's more engaging for the viewer, right? So these are the three functions. Wait, okay, so get challenge queue. List challenges in line for scoring. Yeah, I explained that one. So these are the three functions that I built out in Firebase, what are called workers. These are my back end workers. So let's keep reading the layman's terms that ChatGPT has now outlined to help me understand the dev jargon behind what I've done up until this point. I don't know what it is, but talking to the camera makes my throat itch. I don't know what that's about. But so Next. Okay. Why it mattered. These are like specific employees in your company, each trained to do one task really well 24/7, and they live on Google's servers. That's cool. So these are my back end digital employees. So I've got like a digital sweatshop. Adding cores and validation. What you did. Told each function to only accept calls from allowed websites and to reject. It's kind of a bad joke. Sweatshops are a real thing. So forgive me for that. Adding cores and validation. What you did, told each function to only accept calls from allowed websites and to reject bad requests like missing wallet IDs. Why it mattered. Cores is basically a bouncer at the club door. Only the right guests websites can get in. Validation is making sure those guests have ID, basically. So every time I get a submission, this function checks to make sure that it belongs where it's being placed. Again, a method for which to conserve our resources when it comes to how much of the AI is being used. At what capacity are they working based on what's being submitted? Thus allowing us to conserve resources because it does cost to have a AI backend, right? It's not like you just set up an AI bot and it's just working for free. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you're like me, you're just figuring it out. Fascinating stuff. Deploying the cow, not cow, deploying the cloud. What you did, ran Firebase deploys so your functions went live on Google servers with their own URLs. Let's say that again slow. What you did, run Firebase deploy so your functions went live on Google's servers with their own URLs. Why it mattered. This is like putting your workers in uniform and sending them to their stations so that anyone with the address can walk up and ask them to work. This is like putting your workers in uniforms and sending them to their stations so anyone with the address can walk up and ask them to work. Sounds sketchy. Creating a front door, test.html. What you did, built a super basic HTML page in your public folder with buttons inputs to hit each of your back end URLs. Why it mattered. Without this, you'd have to use developer-only tools to talk to your back end. Without this, you'd have to use developer-only tools to talk to your back end. Now, you had a simple web page to test and prove yes, copy can take submission, a vote, and a list of challenges. Checking Logs Explorer, what you did. Went into Google Logs Explorer to watch real time when your functions ran and see errors like missing wallet or video URL. Why it mattered. Think of this as a body cam feed. You can see exactly what happened during each request, which helps fix bugs fast. Cool. Hooking into AI, Vertex AI/Gemini. What you did, enabled Google's AI service so in the future, you can send videos for scoring without leaving Firebase. Enabled Google's AI service so in the future, you can send videos for scoring without leaving Firebase. Why it mattered. This step is like wiring the kitchen so you could add an espresso machine later. The plugins there, even if we're not brewing coffee yet. The plumbing's there. The plumbing is there even if we're not brewing coffee yet. So it's like placing an outlet and you can use it whenever you need to. Deploying new code and replacing old. What you did, deleted outdated code in VS Code, pasted the fresh updated functions, and deployed. Why it mattered. This ensured your employees in the cloud had the new training manual, not last year's instructions. So I'm really getting to see how a lot of this is integrated. I knew that I was integrating all this stuff, but I didn't have simple language to understand how this was all coming together. And so, again, thanks for bearing with me. This is just an opportunity for me to solidify my understanding behind how all of this works. So I'm going to get to the end of this list and we'll wrap the video with that. Testing live with actual inputs. What you did. Pasted your Firebase function URL into your test page and tried sending fake data, wallet IDs, video URLs to see the responses. Why it mattered. This proved the communication from front end, back end, logs worked exactly as intended. Debugging mismatches. What you did. Fixed cases where the front end didn't send the right data or Firebase didn't see it. Adjusted code, redeployed, tested again. Why it mattered. Debugging is the part where you stand over the worker saying, no, that's not the right form. Here, use this one. Feel bad for the guy. Understanding roles and scope. What you did. Started seeing how your role covered front end, test page, back end functions. Front end is your test page. Back end are your functions that we discussed. Cloud infrastructure, Firebase setup, and AI plumbing, Vertex AI. Why it mattered. This is the definition of a full stack developer, touching everything from the button a user clicks to the server logic to the brain or to the AI brain, touching everything from the button a user clicks to the server logic to the AI brain. If we keep going from here, the next step is wiring Firestore so these functions actually store and retrieve data instead of just logging it. Do you want me to layer the Firestore setup into the same plain English style? Do you want me to layer the Firestore setup into the same plain English style so you can keep building without jumping into heavy jargon? Heavy jargon. That's the logical continuation from where we stopped. So, guys, let me know in the comments if videos in this format are engaging. If not, I'll see how I can switch it up. But my primary focus, again, it wasn't really to, make it entertaining. We'll do that where we can. But for the most part, the focus was to basically show my work. I really want, every step of this process to be documented, to be screen recorded, to show me actually working through the problems, to show me actually expanding my understanding of what I'm doing. So it's a bit messy in the start, but as I said, give me 1 to 2 months and it should look a lot cleaner in terms of my delivery of this content. Because again, I'm kind of having to divide my focus between building, learning, and creating content. So this is my first time doing all these things together. So let me know in the comments how you feel about it so far, and stay tuned. In the future, there'll be more, and stay with me on this journey. We'll see you guys on the next video.